and Billy Ward at the Mount Carmel Cemetery. It just, beyond belief. And one of the things that I heard, along with probably you, I heard that Al Lair was making this a death penalty case. And apparently that really pissed off Biegenwald for whatever reason. And I heard, I think some troopers may have said they went to talk to him, but he said because Lair wouldn't take that off the table, he had nothing to say. He wasn't going to admit to anything else. And go figure, I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of the way of the world, but he definitely had issues, as you well know, from his younger childhood and things like that. So you just never know what, lights these guys fire. However, most of the girls did have pretty much shoulder length brown hair, and they were similar enough that it could fit that serial murder pattern thing. But he certainly wasn't against changing his MO with the homicides, as you said. He went from a couple that he was shooting to some that he stabbed and or strangled, and it was just terrible stuff.
Yeah, it is. And going back to like the Al Lair refusing to take the death penalty off the table, I was told by both Jimmy Fagan, who was obviously the prosecutor, and Lou Diamond, Biegenwald's defense attorney, that there was a plea bargain offered by Biegenwald's attorney to disclose a number of bodies, their locations, if he pleads guilty, take the death penalty off the table, life in prison. And that body count, is a little off in terms of their memory. Lou Diamond believes it was somewhere around 25 bodies. Jimmy Fagan remembers that number being much higher at 75. That being said, I mean, there's a number of bodies that are out there.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the case. And, obviously in our business, I'm sure you feel the same way. Once we get to bed, and there was no way he was getting out, and so if we could put at ease some of the families, because that's what affects you the most. I mean, that the Lesowitz homicide, it certainly affected me and everybody else who worked on it. I ended up writing a song about it just as a personal way of dealing with it. But we could have helped a lot of, and it, like I said, it wasn't going to be like the Sadowski homicide where he got out after so many years. He was never going to see the light of day.
The money is ready. If you'll please tell me where you want us to take it, we'll take it. Shortly? You want us?
And they could have done that. But there were a lot of firsts with that case. It was one of the first cases that they allowed television cameras in the courtroom for that homicide case. And Judge McCann, I think it was, did it the right way. One camera, it's, everybody uses to feed off of that, and nobody dancing around in the courtroom, moving things around. It worked very well. Strangely enough, one of the strange asides from all this was I was talking to some of the people from some of the TV stations after and during my testimony, and they were saying, "Do you ever think of doing a TV show? You seem at ease in front of the camera." I said, "Oh, get away from me, will you?" Well, strangely enough, several years later, I ended up doing 12 years of a live television show about law enforcement and the criminal justice system because it was a good community policing strategy. And people still tell me, "Gee, we used to watch that." And, some of the things are on YouTube, but you just never know what is going to come out. But I'll tell you what, we really got lucky. I kind of think part of it might be the luck of the Irish, because I've had a bunch of cases that over the years when I was a detective that people said, "There's no way you're going to solve this." And when I did, they said, "Well, you know what? I never thought you'd do it, but my God, everything from the dog hair thing we were talking about the other day to I think there's a fingerprint behind me from a guy that drank a soda before he shot a gas station attendant. And I went through their whole dumpster to find a Mountain Dew can, because that's what he drank. And he heaved it over the fence. And I found it in a mud puddle near the dumpster and got the fingerprints and solved that. Good deal. Every once in a while you get lucky. And the other thing that we always say in law enforcement, if they didn't make them stupid, we may not catch them.
Well, I think you're definitely underselling yourself with the fingerprint. A little luck involved that he threw it, but the expertise was there for you to look and find. Many people wouldn't do that. You give the example of the initial crime scene, how the one police officer was allowing trucks to leave, never thinking that could be a possible witness, never thinking it could be maybe the perpetrator. So certainly your expertise there to realize, let's do a thorough, search of the area and then see what we can get.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I've always kind of believed that. I was trained by people who I had a lot of respect for and taught me most of that stuff. And myself, I, have a tendency to be somewhat tenacious and don't want to give up because it's not worth it. And everybody had their parts in this, and it worked out great like that. Because I'll tell you the truth, had I tried to interview, like with Teresa Smith, I didn't have that much contact with her, although I did guard her for a while at the trial because they thought somebody was going to try to quiet her, keep her silent. And that's where that photo, remember the drawing by the Daily News sketch artist from the
yes.
He was at the trial, and he came up to me afterwards. He said, "Here, I drew you this picture. It's you and that girl you were guarding." And I said, "Oh, thanks." Joe Pappin is, and I remember his name. But it's a nice memento, so I'm hanging on. But you're right. There was so many. If anybody had been involved in 100% of the case, from searching to doing this to doing that, it would have, I don't think it would have come out as nice as it did, as well as it did, because I focused on the evidence and what I was doing. And when I went to the Billy Ward trial, and they said, "Well, we're asking about this guy." Yeah, that gun was over there, and this is the guy who had it. It all worked out because it wasn't a case where you couldn't see the forest from the trees. Everybody had their space, and Bill Lucia and Miller and Mike Dowling did those interviews, and That's exactly the way it should have went.
Yeah, yeah, the old analogy, everyone played their position. So I appreciate spending time with me here and going over this.
Certainly.
It's interesting, and we went into greater detail than before, which I'm really glad we did, because there's a lot of information that was really not included in the book that we're discussing now, which is really really interesting and compelling in terms of, like, drawing you in and going, what this guy was involved in. To this day, no one really knows. All we know is the old saying from Donald Rumsfeld: we know what we know, but we know we don't know what we don't know. And there's a lot out there we don't know.
Tell you what, one of the things that down the road or whatever, or I often wondered about, I mentioned that book that they had, that they were jotting down things, and obviously, what a 13-hour search is like. I mean, it was like, and obviously we had all been up all night, and so one of the things that happened, like, we found a book, I looked through, I see the Willen's, the Chief Justice Willen's house map, and I said, holy crap, we gotta, and obviously I say, all right, seal that up, bag it, tag it, and I never got a chance to go back just because of the way the cases were going and who was working in them. Never got a chance to go back and go through that whole book, because who knows what else was in there. And I said, when I saw the thing with the Chief Justices and maybe one or two politicians in there, I said, this is dynamite stuff. We need to, but it needs to be studied by somebody and go through every little piece and all those, even the little accoutrements that they were building, that had to deserve way more attention.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry that I didn't get an opportunity to do that, but hey, I think people will, we know case evidence from homicides is never destroyed or anything. It'll be around forever. So hopefully somebody will maybe do some research and find out more stuff.
Yeah, maybe one day. Certainly more to be examined in the Richard Biegenwald case. Anyway, thank you for your time, and certainly you and I will be in touch.
Absolutely, John. It was good talking to you, and I thank you for taking the time to talk about it, because it is pretty interesting.